Bloody time.
Hello, YouTube. It is I, Banded Wendy. How are
And
you?
it is I, Fresh Orangina.
Yay! And
do
we
you have a thing
are
on
live.
so that it'll also put me on the screen? I can't tell.
Yep, right there when you talk.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Hello, everybody. I am Fresh Orangina, and obviously you know Wendy. Since this is her channel, hopefully you know who she is.
Hopefully somebody shows up. Right now we have 0 viewers. That much I can see. But that's okay.
Yeah. It's gonna be. We'll put it up after as a video, right?
Right. Exactly.
Perfect. All right. So maybe let's do intros.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie. I have a bit of an interesting surgical past. So back in 2009, in January, I had my first weight loss surgery, which was a mini gastric bypass. And then back in 2012, I had to get that corrected because I was over bypassed by quite a bit. And then back at about 2013 to 2014, I started experiencing some major regain along with some other complications like severe anemia, and regained about 110 pounds. And in the past year, I've actually taken off 85, so I got 25 to go, and that's me. Amazing. I'm RNY now.
That's Carrie, and she's someone to know for sure. Old school YouTuber is what I'd like to say about Carrie.
You notice the shit I'm wearing? Las Vegas?
Yeah.
For you.
And we have a viewer. Yay.
Yay. Viewer.
So me, Banded Wendy, lap band, March 2009. And I guess I've been fortunate, lucky. I have a great surgeon. I follow the rules. And weight loss surgery changed my life. So much so that it changed how I do everything, and had so much passion about it. I created a business around weight loss surgery. So I'm a bariatric educator and coach. My husband is a weight loss surgery patient as well. So we're a weight loss surgery family. And Carrie allows me to just be me. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity with her. So hopefully you guys will have fun being with us.
You know, interestingly enough, I'm also about to embark on a whole new career as a result of what I experienced in my own weight loss surgery journey.
Mm-hmm.
So in September, I'm going to be starting a program in culinary innovation and food technology because I want to get into the health food industry and hopefully have a positive influence on it.
She's going to revolutionize the food industry. So, you know,
Let's wait for me to graduate first.
Yeah. Food, that's a perfect topic for us.
Yes. So today we're actually going to be talking about food attachments and anxieties because, as you might know, if you follow Wendy, she's embarked on a new program through the whole Beachbody program thing, right?
Yeah.
And she's found that in some of the foods that she had to give up caused her a little bit of anxiety. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Woo! Goodness. Yeah. You know, I've done these Beachbody programs for years. I've never followed any of the nutritional plans. And this time I decided at this point in my journey, if I want to create change, then I have to be that change. So what else do they offer besides the fitness? They offer the nutrition plan, which the basics of it are bariatric centric, meaning it's protein, it's produce. However, it's structured in a more, I think it's an evolution, right? It's an evolution of how I think about food. And my food has evolved over these last 7 years, how I think about food, how I choose food. So it's a little cleaner than what I typically eat. It's the best way I can term it. And the first thing that I noticed that I could not have was cow's milk. Now, y'all know Wendy and her tea miso, right? So you know, from 1 to 3 of those a day. Calorically, 110 calories, 119 calories. Protein-wise, 10, 11 proteins. That's all I looked at. But this program said no milk and also no artificial sweetener, which I put Splenda in those things. And a week in prior to starting the program, I had to make a decision. Could I give up milk and Splenda and Mistos? And I had anxiety. I was like, oh, I don't think I can do it. And the moment that I realized that I thought I couldn't do it, yeah, that was the moment I realized I must do it. Like, wow. You know, like those were my comfort. They're like my security blanket. They taste good. They meet my needs that I wanted. And I like them. I like them a lot. I look forward to them. So yes, anxiety. Does that answer your question?
And then for me, the other side of that, because that's what she said. That's what she said.
What do you have to say? What is she going to say?
So actually last year, I went through a complete transformation of my diet. It started when I was at the top of my regain, where I was 253 pounds again. And I just couldn't believe it. And I was like, I went through all this just to be right back where I started. I can't have that. So I started doing a lot of research, watching a lot of documentaries. And at first I decided I was going to try vegan for 2 weeks. That didn't work out so well. I really felt like it was too much all at once. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to start by doing this one thing. Let me cut out meat. And the more I thought about it, the more I decided that I wanted to settle in at pescatarian, because with all of my previous history, particularly with the anemia, I need to make sure that I have a really, really good, you know, source of iron in my diet. And from everything I had gone through before, I knew that the best thing for me is actually seafood. And for the iron, I use clams. I don't use beef for iron because clams have more iron in it than beef. And I like it. It's good. I'm used to cooking a lot of seafood. I grew up in the Mediterranean, and so that was something that was always part of our diet and that I really, really liked. And so that's what I decided to settle in on. And it was actually really easy because truly my favorite foods were included. My vegetables and all that, and my seafood, which I love, fish and seafoods all the way. And I didn't really have that much progress. I started back in March of last year. Didn't have too much progress, but then in the summer, after my ex-boyfriend left, when I asked him to pay the rent.
That always helps.
What I was cooking differently when he was in my life, because he's a bulk eater. And so I was cooking for bulk because he never cooked a thing in his life. So I was cooking everything. And it didn't work out too well for me, because as I was adding bulk to his meals, I was adding bulk to my body because I was eating the same stuff as him. So as soon as he skedaddled, I was able to really work on cutting all of those foods out. So first step for me was cutting out the meat, like the land protein sources. And then the second step for me was getting rid of the carbs. Sugar already was not really an issue because I have a very fine trigger for dumping syndrome. And so that was something that was already not really in my life. And the more natural foods that I ate, I found that the taste of chemicals and processed foods, as well as in artificial sweeteners, I just couldn't deal with. I found it very unappealing. And so that was another thing that just kind of disappeared from my diet. I was doing a lot of gardening, literally tried to grow all of my own food, and I did successfully do that. And it really transformed the way that I ate and the way that I thought about nutrition. So for me, cutting out those things, it wasn't really so much about anxiety. I would say maybe there was a little bit of anxiety at first when I was thinking about going the vegan route, because I really have trouble with supplements. And so I was trying to get a lot of, I have IBS, and so the supplements kind of trigger my IBS, and particularly iron. Maybe other people who have similar issues can understand that. So with the vegan part of it, I thought, well, how am I going to make that work? And so that's why I sort of thought it through a little bit more and settled in on pescatarian. And I haven't looked back since. I do have like a little bit of this and that here and there, but actually very little. And I don't really find that I miss it at all. As far as the carbohydrates, I was still eating carbohydrates. What was that? Up until up until the point that I started to really, really stall. So I lost the first 65 actually very, very rapidly, just through those changes in my diet and cutting out the carbs, from like literally a year ago today. A year ago today. So this is perfect for this video. Between the time of July 1st and about, let's say, January 1st, the first 65 pretty much came off. And I didn't really have to make that much of an effort. I wasn't eating stuff like bread, but I was still eating stuff like a little bit of potatoes here and there and some risotto. Those are sort of foods that I kind of fell back on a little bit. And I was still losing weight, so it was fine. But when I got to that stall, when my body decided to just say, okay, this is going to be our new set point for a while, I was on a stall for 4 months. And I was like, you know what? I really want to get back down to what I feel is my proper maintenance range. And so it was time to get rid of those. And because there was so much good food I was already eating, it's not like I really missed it.
That's it. I think that right there, you just said it. Because I was eating such good food, it's not that I really, really missed it.
Yeah.
I have to say, for me, that morning miso, the hotness in my stomach, I still get that with the tea. The milk and the sweetness from the Splenda, it was certainly like a treat, you know, like a morning treat. And I'm only on day 4, so you have a lot more history about the change versus I do. But it's not. I continue to mix it up, and I'm finding benefits from having basically lemon tea. Meaning I have no problem pooping. I finished my tea and was like, oh, emergency! I gotta go poop.
I know. When I heard that, I was like, I gotta try this.
So that's cool. I'm like, oh, I mean, okay, I'll take that. But it's certainly not a decadent wake up and, you know, have this miso that I reheat 3 or 4 times that I'm sipping on slowly. It's more like I've got the hot water, I've got the lemon, I want the caffeine. It's a much faster, I'm done with it experience.
Literally get down to business.
Yeah. Like, oh, gotta go. Yeah. But I think that it's okay. Someone asked me, do you feel different? And I don't. I don't physically feel any different, really. Mentally, I will say I feel a little bit more confident that I could do it. It was like, this is going to be for 60 days. Well, I'll do it for 3 days. And then 3 days is now turned into 4. And I'm for sure going to stick with my 60 days. It happened that fast.
Right.
Where a week ago, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I think it helps too here because it is our warmest time of the year. So I'm not drinking to like warm up my bones.
Yeah. Can I add something in there though?
Yes.
I think that a lot of times when we experience anxieties, it's the thought of what will be and how you're going to handle it. And it's always more stressful to think about it than to actually do it.
Yeah.
You're doing it. You're just doing it and you're living life and you're not really thinking about how it's like going to stress you out or what you're worried about because you're in the moment already.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Totally. And actually once I got past the hump with that, it was really cleaning up my diet. And I think that because I had been able to get through that with, okay, the thing I always start my day with, I did that. I got that. Okay, so now I can move on to the next piece of this thing that I'm trying to do, and it's different, but it's possible. And I was like, I hope I'll find my stride with this. And I think I'm finding my stride, particularly with the lunch thing. It's different. And it's exactly what you're saying is the fear or the anxiety comes from thinking about it, but not necessarily just trying it and getting into it. And once you try it and get into it, it's like, oh, this is kind of comfortable. I can do this. Yeah.
And I think that sort of leads us into our next question, which is, what do those foods mean to you, and how would giving them up change your lifestyle, your routine, the ways of dealing with life, and how others view you? And I wanted to add that in because I think that because food has such a social component, whenever we talk about removing certain things from our diet, it does change how we live our lifestyle. I know for me, I have friends who love going to buffets. I have never been a fan of buffets. Me, I grew up in Italy. And there, when you go to a restaurant, everything that you order is served on its own separate plate.
Yeah, it's a buffet.
It's not like mixing foods. Right. Everything has to be its own separate entity, not just piled on top of oneself. Like, no. And I grew up with that sort of ideology of like, things need to be clean and you need to be able to taste what you're eating and it should be quality. And I just find I don't really get that in a buffet. And so generally when people go to buffets, I don't go. I would much rather spend, and it's never cheap. So unless you're planning on eating well beyond what you're physically designed to eat, no, you're not like a tiger or something that can only eat like once every month or whatever. You're supposed to eat a reasonable amount of food. But so unless you're planning on eating a ridiculous amount of food, you're probably better off going to a better quality restaurant anyhow and having a decent meal. So I tend to avoid that. And I have noticed a difference actually, and people don't invite me out for stuff as much as they used to.
Wow. That's interesting.
Which is, a little bit disappointing because, there is a social component to that. And it's not like I have like a huge amount of friends here in Toronto. If anybody else is in Toronto, hit me up because I'm looking for, more people, although I'm going to be moving soon. But, there really is a lot of that. Even like, think about at a work event or a birthday party, when they're passing around the cake. As a person who can't eat any kind of sugar, I get this a lot. Every family celebration, get together, whatever, everybody's always asking me if I want dessert. And, no thanks. I'm sorry, I can't eat that. And then it's like, oh, are you on a diet? No, I just can't eat that. So unless you want me to get really, really sick, I'm going to have to say no.
Right. And they don't accept they probably don't accept I choose not to eat that very well. Have you ever, instead of I cannot, I choose not.
Mm-hmm. Right? And the other part of that is that, like, it's kind of garbage. It's a little bit garbagey.
Right.
To me. I mean, obviously not to people who love birthday cake. I used to love birthday cake. It was, vanilla frosting and all that stuff.
I love everything.
Moist and the sweet and the sort of like I can describe it very well, the graininess in the icing, when you kind of chew it in your teeth and it hits the moist kind of fatty cake, and there was a time that I enjoyed that. But now when I think of that, all it makes me think of is throwing up and like having heart palpitations. I've gone through that too many times and learned my lesson. And so it's like, no, thank you.
So, thoughts I have about that. When I first started dating Craig, he had weight loss surgery for a number of years and I had not. And I remember him telling me, just so you know, I don't go to buffets. We can go anywhere and everywhere else you want to eat, but I'm not doing buffets. And I was like, okay, just wanted to say that. But then, for me with the Starbucks thing, I go to the same Starbucks every day. I have 2 locations that I go to, and if they see me coming down the street, I've walked in there and my drink is made. And it's almost been 2 years now, and a year ago, last summer, they were like, "So you never change your drink?" You know, because a lot of people go from a hot drink to a cold drink in the summer. And I'm like, no, I never change my drink. Unless it's over 100 degrees, I don't change.
It's 4 o'clock.
So anyway, I've had to have team meetings at both Starbucks locations with the whole barista staff. And one time I had to do it twice because it was 2 different days and 2 different staff. And I explained to them why I was changing my drink, what it meant to me. And I was like, really, all of them were like, "That's great. We're totally on board. You should try this tea." And I'm like, no. I appreciate that. Maybe, but I know what I want. I want this, like that.
Yeah.
But I felt like I had to have that conversation with them because I was changing, and I had told them before, never am I going to change my drink unless it's over 100 degrees. And it's not over 100 degrees here. So me changing my drink was like, and please don't make my old drink when you see me walking down the street, because for me right now, that would be too much kindness. Like someone wants to offer you a piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
"Oh, here's a cupcake. You're so pretty. Have a cupcake." Well, "Oh, here's your drink. It's ready for you." I'd be like, "Oh, I gotta take that." The other thing that happened to me yesterday is I go to a location to pay our rent. And they have this lovely little take 1, take 2, take 5 candies out of the dish kind of thing. And I'm not adding any extra sugars, right? So I'm not eating any birthday cake during this 60 days. And what did I do without even thinking? Old habit, old behavior.
Yeah.
A little strawberry candy and a little Hershey crackle, like the bite-sized ones.
Mm-hmm.
I put those in my hand, took the receipt for my rent, went down to my car, and when I got in my car, I was like, I threw it. And I was like, "Oh no, what did I
You do that?
Yeah, that's a habit. That's a habit." And you know, the reality is, for me, at this point in my journey, that type of little habit, I don't think is really a bad thing in the world of maintenance. But I certainly know that sugar is addictive, and I have a pretty good rein on it. But I've also given up my nightly chocolate bar. So because I can manage, you know, my weight, I felt compelled, and it was okay to have a Hershey bar every night if I wanted. And I know what the calories are, and I know what the protein are, and they fit into my day, and I'm accountable to myself, you know, with that, and even with others. And so the last 3 nights, I haven't had any Hershey bar. I haven't had peanut butter with the Hershey bar. And that was another stress point. So my day, my morning, and then my afternoon and my evening, you know, my late night were filled with these things that I wanted. So my husband's been away, tying it back to the question, and he'll come home on Saturday. And so it'll be a true test for me to keep up my choices.
Right.
And it's not because I cannot, because I'm on this program, but I've already thought about it. It's like, I've got 6 days under my belt with this. And I'm going to ask him, and he's very supportive. You know, I can do whatever I want as long as I'm not changing what he's doing, because that's not going to happen, right? So that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
And that's fine, right? But just support me in the fact that don't bring any cupcakes home, no matter how delicious they look. And no, you know, he doesn't put the candy bar in my hand at night. I do it myself, so I don't think that'll be an issue. But certainly that dynamic too of the people that are around you, like you're saying, you're not getting those invites, right, to go out to the buffet. The people around you have to be on board, or you want them on board, or they're not going to be, and you have to be okay with that.
But I'll tell you something about that, though. In saying no to those invitations, I mean, I have friends who are overweight, and I have friends who are morbidly obese, and I see them saying that they want to change, and they want to have new habits, and they want to lose weight and be healthier. particularly as we get older. And they're not changing anything about what they find comforting and comfortable in their lifestyle. And they are not just staying the same. Their health is getting worse, you know?
Yeah.
And when I observe that, I mean, I care about them, but I can't make their decisions for them. And I'm glad that I chose to say no. That's part of my thought process in the way that I consolidate what the situation is. And in a way, it strengthens my own decisions and the confidence that I have in those decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they probably don't need to be going to the buffet is what I hear you saying.
Mm-hmm. So the next question actually that we have is, how did the anxieties around these particular foods change as your journey has progressed and over time? I know for me, first when, you know, we have all these food funerals before we have surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was for it now, the food funeral. Let's go and have, like, you know, a blowout of Chinese. But for me, it was Chinese food.
I'll never get to eat it again.
Oh God, yeah. So it was like, invite all your friends out. It's the last supper for Chinese food. Oh my God, I'm gonna eat the noodles, I'm gonna eat the fried stuff, the General Tao chicken. I'm just gonna like shovel it in there, and I'm gonna probably feel sick after. And how did that change over time? Well, I went back to Chinese food because you get to that point in your journey where if you're like, you know, 2, 3, 4 years out from surgery, you can eat that shit again, you know? Yeah. And when you do eat it, your body is just like, oh my God, salt, fat, sugar, carbohydrates, all in one meal. It's like, yay! And like truly, your body goes on like a total bender beyond what you do. And then if you like bring the leftovers home, even worse. Before I had surgery, I used to binge on Chinese food all the time. I would order like an insane amount of food, eat it up, to the point where I was sick.
Unzipping your pants, sticking your hands.
Oh no.
Back on the couch.
Recovered bulimic. I go and make myself sick.
Oh, gotcha.
More of it, which is like, you got to know, like, there's seriously something wrong there. It was such an unhealthy relationship that I had with Chinese food.
Uh-huh.
And when I started eating it again, I wasn't eating steamed vegetables and chicken and shrimp. I was eating Singapore noodles, all kinds of noodles. The noodles are the greasy noodles that are, you know, full of oil and meat and all kinds of stuff in it. And like maybe there's like a few shreds of vegetables.
Yeah, all the reasons people go and eat Chinese food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and truly, I mean, like I could eat a meal like that and gain 5 pounds, like bona fide gain 5 pounds, because with all of the restrictions that I had had before and my over bypass particularly, it was like my body was starved for so long, so that when it actually got a hold of those types of calories, nothing passed through my system. And I could literally feel it. That was the most bizarre thing about my vegan. I could like literally, I could feel the fat cells in my face, in my arms, and in my legs expanding. It was the craziest thing. And when I researched about it, the only thing I ever found about it was that was also experienced by recovering bulimics who started, not bulimics, anorexics, who did extreme restriction, and then when they were in recovery and started eating again, they could feel that, because that was basically, I had the surgical version of that. Now, do I still? I mean, I suppose if people invited me out for Chinese food, I would, you know, I would go. My choices are completely different now. I'm not touching the noodles, and I'm going to go for something much healthier, and I'm probably going to be that pain in the ass customer who's asking for it to be made a particular way. And you know what? That's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. Anybody who's at the table with you who's like, oh, why do you have to be such a pain in the ass? And it's like, well, I'd rather not end up in a hospital on dialysis. I'd rather not, you know, like, you know, is it really that much of a pain in the ass to be asked to be made a certain way? Not really. No. I mean, they're probably used to it. It's a normal thing nowadays. So
Yeah, I'm all about asking for what you want. I hear you. I remember my last supper before weight loss surgery was Indian food. I thought that was the end of it. It was many years later before I had Indian food, and I certainly ordered differently. But I haven't. I live next to an Indian restaurant, and I can say all of 2 times I've been there in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Once was with a guest to eat, and another was just recently, night before travel, and I was like, we're hungry, we didn't have any food, we hadn't bought anything. I'm like, should I go to the Indian restaurant? And it actually was too spicy for me, so I ended up not eating it. But I didn't get the rice, I don't get the naan, you know, all the things that were like the plentiful part of the food, the meal. Yeah. I just get the protein with the curry. But there was something that you said that, so for instance, I have plans to take out a friend for her birthday tomorrow. She turned 50 last week. She's never had lobster. She's lived and she's grown up in the Pacific Northwest. So there's a great place that's known for their seafood, and they have a happy hour, they have a deck, it's on the water, and they have lobster. And I've looked at their menu, and I will have to be very specific about what I order, which is not new, right? As a weight loss surgery patient, I've done that, but I'll be even more specific because what I'm doing, I can have, you know, only this much cheese in a day, only this much olive oil in a day, only this much type of fat, you know. So it's like, give me this dry, and do you have any vegetables that, can I get them not sauteed in oil or whatever, right? Yeah. And I've already started thinking about that process. She won't care. Mm-hmm. And I won't care, but there's a piece of me that's like, I don't even want to go. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I want to go because of her, you know, and the environment and the experience. I've never been to this place. Right. But it'd be so much easier for me just to make my own freaking lobster tail and have some green beans and be done with it. You know? So there's so much around food, and as you were mentioning, social and anxiety and other people and old behaviors and the mental space that you crawl into with making those good, better, best choices or not, right? Falling back.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I know probably if people were going out for ice cream or something, they probably wouldn't invite me. And you know what? There's not really a reason for that. That's their hang up. If they feel like they don't want somebody around who's not eating it because it's going to make them feel guilty about their food choice. Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax right there.
Yeah. And talk about like the food if it gives you anxiety to think about giving up the food.
Yeah.
How much anxiety does it give you of thinking of eating something when there's somebody else around who will not eat that because of health reasons? You know?
I don't run into that in my life at all, honestly. But I have that. I see people eating stuff that I wouldn't eat. And it's not a judgment thing, but I certainly think, really?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing? And then I just kind of remember, well, I've done that. I've been there, you know? Mm-hmm. But I have that benefit of living solo 50% of the time and then having a weight loss surgery patient that lives with me.
Yeah. So you're lucky.
Yeah, I'm the lucky one.
I'm going to do my single shout out right now. Yes, she's married. I, on the other hand, am single. Just saying.
That's right. And she likes to cook. She knows how to clear down. And she's a lot of fun. So we probably we started this about 3:30, so we probably have about 15 minutes left. We don't want people to
okay.
Hours. Where do we stand on our list? Is this?
So let's see. Well, we were around number 3, considering social aspect. Well, I think we sort of covered the social aspects of eating and drinking. Oh, what did you find to take the place of those food or beverages? That I think is really important to cover, because I know for me, the reason why it was so easy for me to give up those things is because I ate the best food ever. I do. I post, I'm the kind of person who I like to post my food on Instagram a lot. And I cook almost everything. The only thing I think I eat out of the house at this point is sushi. And in that, I usually go for sashimi. If you want just protein and produce, the best thing to order at a sushi joint is the chirashi don without rice and with salad instead. All protein and produce. Excellent thing to order. But for me, like I said, all the stuff that I love the most is still in my diet. So I don't really have things to miss, because everything that I eat is like a celebration of delicious food.
Yes. Yeah, that's the, Carrie and I find ourselves both saying, she says, I only eat delicious food.
I only eat delicious food.
Yeah, only, say it again. I only eat delicious food.
I only eat delicious food, because you know what? If it's not delicious,
why am I eating it?
Why? Food is supposed to be delicious. It's supposed to be delicious. And it doesn't need to be covered in like sugar and fat and carbs in order to be delicious, because truly the things that give the most flavor to food are the things that are left over, because all that other stuff is kind of generally not that tasteful. I mean, sugar is a bit of a flavor enhancer, but it takes over things. I can't wait to see how your taste change, Wendy, after like not eating any artificial sweetener or any kind of sugar.
Yeah.
For how many days? For 60 days?
Yeah. They say your taste buds will change.
For me, I mean, I don't eat any of that stuff. When I have a piece of watermelon, it tastes like candy. Oh my God, I just tried a new fruit yesterday that I've never tried before. Jackfruit.
I've heard of jackfruit. I bought jackfruit.
Like bubble gum. The thing tastes like bubble gum.
Really?
Totally. That is where they get that natural flavoring in bubble gum. Is I guarantee you it's from jackfruit. Incredible.
When I first initially had weight loss surgery, it was a very long time before I ever had a cookie. To the point I had surgery in 2009, we moved to downtown LA in 2010, late 2010. It was probably 2011, and I got a cookie from the bakery lived across from the LA Cafe, directly across. Zoom. I could see them from the, So we went. I got my tea there. At night, we would walk the dog, and they had cookies. And I'm not joking. These cookies were as big as your head. And I remember I got a cookie. Now, granted, it's a bakery, but they're making mass production of these cookies. They're not like making 12 or 24 that you would have at home. But whatever they put in that cookie, and maybe it was just sugar, but it literally, within the first bite, hurt my mouth. And that was like, I've never ate a cookie that hurt my mouth before. And I just, simply was like, that's because whatever is in that cookie, I haven't eaten in years. Or had that much of it, right? At that type of complexity in my mouth. I was like, oh, I never had my mouth hurt from a cookie. So I think that it will certainly change. And I've heard about the taste buds changing. But the replacement, for me in this current situation, in my replacements, if I think about old school, I used to drink Pepsi before I had weight loss surgery. I don't drink Pepsi anymore. I don't have a replacement for Pepsi. Pepsi's not in my life. Like you, there are very few things that I used to eat that I don't eat anymore. Whatever it is. There are some limitations more than others because of my type of weight loss surgery, just like you, right? You can't eat the sugar. I can't necessarily sit down and eat a French bread.
Right.
It's not going to work. And it's funny, most of the things like pineapple or cantaloupe or Brussels sprouts or broccoli, things that are actually healthy, right? I can't eat those because of my weight loss surgery, and that can be frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I've had to accept. Rather than fight it and try to eat it and know that it
Yeah.
turns into trouble, I've just had to say those are things like you. I cannot eat that. I'm just going to make the choice to avoid going there because it's an ugly. I can put it in my mouth and I can swallow it, and it's going to stop about right here, and then I'm going to end up on the toilet, and that's just like a lot of fun, right? So I've had to make those choices, but it's certainly having. There's the elimination phase completely, and then there's having a substitution, and what kind of substitution is that, and what does it do to you, right? For me, going from a tea miso in the morning to a black tea with lemon, okay, it's working. The afternoon, going from a hot tea miso to iced tea, okay, it's working. I would have to say the big one is at night, not having a Hershey bar. And that's the only time of day that I honestly eat when I'm not hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've replaced that, exchanged that with a protein shake, which is, I'm supposed to have that protein shake at some time in my day via this plan.
Right.
And so it fits in, and it is chocolatey, and it's got half a banana, so it's kind of sweet. It's got a teaspoon of nut butter, so it's kind of buttery.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's been quite simple to make that shift. I think it's a mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think where you want to go with this is that whole mock food thing.
Yes, I was just about to lead into that. So for me, there's certain stuff like I'll tell you the last thing that was really full of sugar that I hate. I dumped horribly on it. Was a few years ago already now, and this is the ex-boyfriend was a real junk food junkie, and I hadn't been to McDonald's in like years, and it was turning into like a trip to McDonald's every weekend. And I decided one day I was going to have a small chocolate milkshake because it was something I used to enjoy, and he got one all the time, and I wanted to join in the fun. My version of joining in the fun consisted of having, about maybe a quarter of this small-sized milkshake, and then getting completely worst dumping syndrome ever that lasted. The thick of it lasted 2 hours. It was so bad to the point that at the end of it, I just completely passed out.
Yeah.
I was having violent burping. It was such an unpleasant and just awful experience that the thought of going to anything ice cream like ever again is just like, no.
And I want to ask this question here, Carrie. Do you think that, because I've had the pineapple, I've had the bread, I've had the asparagus, I've had the Brussels sprouts, I've tried the broccoli. 9 times out of 10 for me, they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like the moon's in a certain place and the earth is rotating at a certain speed, I might get that one time.
If your band is suddenly a sinkhole.
Right. It's rare, but and I can't say that all those things that I've been able to get through them once, but I can definitely say that I've tried them.
Mm-hmm.
So there you are with, having that experience. What do you think about that? What do you think about, do you think that's kind of part of the game?
Well, you know what, for me, that's sort of the meat thing, right? So meat was kind of easier for me to give up because probably about half the time that I ate meat, I threw up at least some of it, because all it takes is that one little, that you have your portion, and then like you're getting full, and then there's that one goddamn piece left on your plate just staring you in the face saying, get in your mouth.
I need to eat you. You're mine.
And then you do, and while you're chewing it, what's gonna happen.
Bad juju. Oh yeah.
And then you swallow, and then you're like, I can get through it. I can get through it. I'm strong. It'll be fine. Maybe a sip of water will help. No. kids are running to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of made it very easy for me to give those things up. And because I had such a good substitute to replace those proteins
Right.
in my seafood, and it was like a less dense version of a more nutritious food, it worked out perfectly. So that's why this transition was so easy for me. But it's funny because even with the whole vegetarian and vegan debate, there's this stuff now, particularly for people who are cultural vegans, who are against the sort of use of animals and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there's this debate sort of going on of whether you would eat a laboratory-made steak. Cruelty-free, yes. It's some kind of weird science experiment steak.
Yeah, exactly.
And at least for me, it would be like, no. Like, there's a reason why I gave those foods up. And for me, like, it wasn't just about that. It was much more health conscious decision. And so to go back to certain things, I have a real problem with that on a couple of different fronts. And the most obvious of which is like, if you look at the entirety of what's on the market in regards to diet foods that are in the diet aisle, right?
Yep.
You have protein drinks that are all like milkshakes and fruit shakes, or like, some kind of a milkshake, caramel this, banana cream that, chocolate, vanilla, everything that, in your former life would have been in a milkshake.
Right.
And then you have protein bars, and they're like, oh, well, this one tastes like a peanut crisp. This one tastes like a crackle bar. This one tastes like an O. Henry. Like it's. I think that if you want to truly, and I really believe in this, if you want to truly change your habits and change the way that you deal with things over your entire lifetime, and this game is not about a finite period. It is, you have the diet mentality has got to go when it comes to weight loss surgery, because if you go with the diet mentality that you're going to do what you're going to do, like a diet, until you've lost your weight, and then you can start adding all those things back in, it's just like as if you were to diet before in your former life. And what happens when you start adding those
How'd
things?
How'd that work out for you?
You regain weight. So if you're going to continue eating stuff that are like chocolate bars, what is your taste going to be like when you get to, that Halloween event and there's like little miniature chocolate bars everywhere? Of course you're going to eat them. Of course you're going to eat them.
Well, it's like, can I list the things? It's like, I don't care how many grams of protein and how little number of calories are in your special protein ice cream. Talk to me in 3 years and let me know how that's working out for you.
Exactly.
Because it's not going to work out. I can tell you that much. It's the same thing. That I eat 3 of those Quest bars a day. Well, I used to eat 3 Snickers a day too, but there's no difference. How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
What are some of the other?
I remember in college when I used to eat, like, lunch was like a pop and a candy bar.
Yep, breakfast was pop.
And then you'd order pizza for dinner. Oh my God, this stupid cauliflower pizza thing. Okay, I have not tried the cauliflower pizza.
I haven't either.
The cauliflower thing on one. And if you like the cauliflower rice, that's great.
I do like the cauliflower rice.
But if you think about it, cauliflower has a very completely different texture than what rice is. It doesn't absorb flavors in quite the same way that rice is. It doesn't have a starchy consistency when you chew on it. And for me, I did substitute, I substituted in a recipe and they came out completely disgusting. And I was like, how can it, and then it just like, it was like a flashbulb thing for me. It's like, you can have cauliflower or you can make the decision to have rice. But if you think that eating cauliflower is going to be a delicious substitute and give you the same mouthfeel and experience as eating rice, it's not.
Right. No, it's not. I've done it. I've done it a couple of times. And it's the closest thing to rice that I've eaten, and I haven't eaten rice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want you to think about, and I've learned my lesson with the cauliflower rice. I like it. However, think about a piece of rice, the size of it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you chew that piece of rice 30 times? And then think about how many pieces of rice are on the fork that go into your mouth. Can you chew all those 30 times before you swallow? Well, I cannot. And my lap band says, ah!
Uh-huh.
So I have found that to be true with the cauliflower
Mm-hmm.
rice too, Carrie.
For me, when it comes to thinking about things to make, and like if I want to have, if I'm really dying to have rice, okay, I'm gonna have rice. I'm gonna have it in a much smaller amount. But like I eat too many other good things that I don't even think about it anymore. But when it comes to cauliflower, do I want to have my cauliflower ground up and, I don't know, boiled or steamed? No, I don't eat vegetables like that. I
I
don't
like it
put
roasted.
vegetables in the microwave. And I have a lot better recipes and better things that I can do with cauliflower than blitz it in my blender and turn it into cauliflower rice. So I think for me, in my WLS lifestyle, if I'm going to eat cauliflower, it's not going to be as a pizza crust, and it's not going to be as a rice. It's going to probably be with, you know, some protein enhanced bechamel sauce on top and cheese, and baked in the oven, because that is delicious.
That sounds delicious.
It is good.
Right? It totally.
You know, and there's a little bit of carbs in that, because you need like a tablespoon of flour to make a roux for, like, you know, 4 cups of bechamel. So to me, the amount of carbs in that is fairly negligible when it comes to the size of the whole dish. So I'll still do something like that. I won't eat a piece of bread, because that's...
So what I hear you saying is, in Carrie's world, and I support it 100%. I really do. I like the idea of trying new food things, but I don't think that it's certainly not something that's like it's not a viable replacement for rice in the world of cauliflower rice.
Exactly.
But what I hear you saying is, if I'm going to eat cauliflower, I'm going to eat cauliflower the way it was intended to be.
Exactly, because there's
and not to be a substitute. Because here's the thing, right? Is if you, I mean, I used to get extra rice, you know, at the Chinese place and the Thai place, and for the takeout, you know, make sure you put, you know, whatever I didn't finish, can you put more rice in there? And I would just eat that rice and eat that rice. So if you think that that's what you're going to be able to do with the cauliflower rice, some people might be able to do that. I can't, right? But I have a certain type of weight loss surgery. There are other people who may be able to do that. So I think that's when the question comes into play. Is this cauliflower rice just becoming what old rice was to you?
Right. And the other part of that is also, when you think about something like rice, it is a fairly bland item.
Right. Unless you put something on it.
Bulk item. So it's basically a bulk-sized vehicle for flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if the food that you are eating has very strong flavor, you were talking about Indian food earlier. I make Indian food at home, and I love it. And I make it a lot healthier than I would get in a restaurant, because I'm in charge of everything that goes in there. But I put a lot of spices in it, and the flavor is really, really intense. And I find that with the flavor being that intense, I need a much smaller amount of something to be satisfied with it, because after I'm finished eating it, that flavor is still in my mouth. I don't need to fill up on mindless eating with that flavor just to be able to remember it, because the stuff that I'm making has a tremendous amount of flavor. And because I'm not eating a lot of the stuff like sugar and all these other carbs, I find that I can taste flavors a lot better because my diet is cleaner, my palate has changed.
You know, the other thing that goes about that, Carrie, that I want to add in here, and then we need to probably wrap up because it's 4:34.
Yeah.
And we'll be back. This is not our last time. But the other thing is, you just made me think of something. It's truly a learning process. And if you do not start to, and it's nonstop learning for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's a learning process about food. I would say that I was not very smart about food and nutrition. I just wanted to eat, and I wanted to eat everything, whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and I didn't think about what it did to me in any way. And now the evolution has allowed me to learn enough that I want to keep learning more, and keep evolving in why I choose food and how I choose food. And if we don't do that, if we don't do that piece of the learning and the education in this journey, we are going to end up going right back to what we used to eat.
Yeah.
And or we're going to try to make these substitutions that are better, but it's the same thing. So, you know, dare to try and know, what do we got? 7 years here, you know, each of us post-op.
Yeah.
Granted, we've lived different journeys. We have different weight loss surgeries. We live in different environments, but I'm pretty sure we would both say, if you do not figure out more about food, make an effort to try new things, to experiment with flavors and proteins and vegetables and recipes, then you're going to be stuck in the same food box and or the old food box, and somewhere along the line, that's going to stop working. That's what I think. Am I allowed to think that?
I agree. No, I agree. I mean, that's just like that jackfruit thing, right? So like, I'm a very adventurous eater, and I've traveled all over the place, and I love to eat the native food and always discover new things, but I had never tried that jackfruit. And I just discovered fruit that tastes like bubble gum, right? But without the artificial sweeteners, without that. So you just have like that nice flavor, and it comes packaged in something that's got a lot of nutrients and fiber in it. So like, how can you go wrong with that? You know, I like to go onto these groups on Facebook and like post pictures of my food, because I eat very differently than most people. And I eat stuff that I think most people are generally not used to preparing at home. And I want to sort of put a seed in people's minds that they can do things a little bit differently. And one of the things that irks me the most is when people are like, oh, that's gross. Like if I had octopus, somebody was like, oh, that's disgusting. It's not disgusting. It's actually really good.
Yeah, I had someone say that today about wheatgrass. Ew, wheatgrass. I don't like that. Well, I do. It's delicious.
And it's like, you know, it's funny. I was just watching a video recipe on YouTube the other day, and the fellow was hysterical because he's like, he's making energy bars, and he put vanilla in it. And he's like, use regular vanilla, use real vanilla, because you use artificial vanilla flavor, you don't even want to know what's in there, but trust me, you don't want to eat it. I'll tell you what, it comes out of the butt of a very Canadian icon.
And the moose.
No, a beaver.
Well, that's an interesting preface that you added to the description of such a Canadian icon. I'm going to come up with something better.
That ain't no maple.
There's something better. Oh my God, we're getting off topic. Okay.
Yeah, but this is the thing. So never assume something is gross. If it's a natural food, it's good food, and like other people enjoy it, they enjoy it for a reason. Keep an open mind, and you never know what you're going to find is going to be the new favorite. I think that relying on old paradigms of eating and the whole pizza paradigm, you know, maybe that's to feel included with your family. But the fact is that if you've had bariatric surgery, you're not supposed to be eating pizza, right? You didn't go through a life-altering, body-altering surgery in order to do the same thing that you've been doing. So if you've replaced your, you know, morning, high-fat, high-sugar mocha with a premier protein drink, and you think that you're doing a good thing because you're drinking this big chocolatey drink and it tastes so good and it's wonderful, like, yes, that might help you in the first transition to it, but you need to keep exploring your food options, because you need to find those replacements that will be
beyond the protein
the old
shake,
paradigm.
go beyond the protein bar.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And go beyond what you're used to and you're comfortable with. I can't do crust with pizza. It's a very challenging thing for me. But Craig likes to have pizza. So I actually do a chicken crust pizza. And so it's protein and produce, and I know all the stats on it. And we have that maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. And he will eat it for breakfast and lunch and dinner until it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I will eat my 2 slices during that period of the meal that we're having pizza, right? And I feel better for him eating that than if he were to go buy a large pizza that I'm going to eat 3/4 of a slice and then I'm not going to feel good physically because I ate it. And then he's going to freeze those slices and eat them, you know, over time. I'd much rather him eat something that's better than the cardboard crust pizza, right? So I hear what you're saying there, and I'm sure other people have that same perspective, but I certainly eat pizza.
Yeah. For me, I think the difference is that, like, I spent 3 months in California over the winter, and I was eating with my family at every meal. And I had no problem making my own food and eating something completely different, because I knew that I didn't want to eat those things that they were eating, and I had trouble with them. And every time I did try, I used to end up probably in the bathroom or, you know, having some kind of problem with it. And so it really made me comfortable with making my own food and making what's good for me. So I don't mind making something different for my family and preparing something separate for myself, because that's my prerogative. That's how I want to eat. That's the food I want to put in my body.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly being able to put yourself in a situation of you being first and important, and also having the support of those others around you.
Not always. My mom was like, "Oh, you're making my kitchen dirty again."
Yeah, but at least but you know, it's okay, right? Like, Craig and I eat differently, breakfast and lunch all the time.
Yeah.
70% of the time we eat the same protein base for our dinner. But he'll go in completely opposite direction with his after the protein than I will, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's funny, he called me last night and I said I was going to make turkey burgers. He's like, why don't you make some of that gross stuff you like to eat and make the turkey burgers when I'm home? I'll eat turkey burgers. And I'm like, because I want the turkey burgers tonight, you know, which I thought was kind of cute. He thinks what I eat is gross stuff. And to make that gross stuff when I'm not home, which I typically do make the gross stuff when he's not home. But yeah, I mean, there is, where there's a will, there's a way, right? In that world of, I have needs, I'm committed, I'm focused, I desire to eat, you know, my nutrition and select it and pick it, and even eat when I want to.
Yeah.
Right? Not just because it's 5:30 and dad's had dinner at 5:30 all of his life since he's been married to mom for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm not hungry till 9 o'clock and I'm not eating at 5:30.
You know what? That was a big issue actually for me when I was with my ex-boyfriend. He liked to eat like meals 5 times a day. And because I don't get the hunger prompts, I was eating whenever he ate.
Yeah. Oh, before I had weight loss surgery, I picked up on Craig's hunger with his gastric bypass. And I knew like we'd be going out to eat at a certain time and he was eating. And I'd be like, no, don't do that, because we won't eat when we go to where we're going, you know? And you don't realize it as it was just totally different when we're both had weight loss surgery. Because typically if we eat, we are exactly in sync to when it's time to eat again.
Yeah. See, I need that. I need a little bit of that in my life. I don't have to be lonely. WLSers only.
Website. Okay, so what do we have to say here? It's 4:44, so we got to say goodnight because I've got.
There's no need to have anxiety around dropping certain foods, because by dropping certain foods, it allows you room to expand in your food toolbox and figure out your new favorites, to fill yourself with the most amazing, great things and your favorite things without all the filler. To me, that's the best thing ever. And if you can eat your favorite things and still be like losing weight or maintaining your physique, then that's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I had someone say to me the other day, I thought having weight loss surgery, I would be able to eat the same things I always ate, just less of them. And at 3 years post-op, I can't believe I thought that that was how it was going to be.
Mhm.
So eventually things are going to have to change. And my take on that is what you're saying, you know, I'm just going to throw it out there. If there is something that anybody, you know, is doing daily related to food, whether it's something you chew on, suck on, or sip on, right? Food or drink. And if you have a, just give it a thought and say, if I were to eliminate this from my diet, and diet being the way we eat, not I'm on a diet to lose weight, but just the foods we choose to eat, our nutrition, would that make me have anxiety? And if the answer to that question is yes, yeah, because I've lived it just recently,
Mhm.
then I challenge them to do it because that's probably a must.
Yeah.
And it may not be 100 calorie, 10 protein tea misto. Who knows what it is? So if you face anxiety about living,
Artificial sugar.
yeah,
That's a
artificial,
huge one. Artificial
yeah,
sweeteners are a massively huge one. The
and
amount of sweet it hits you with is much greater than regular sugar.
and the thing about that is, you know, Sandy and I have talked about this. For her, artificial sweeteners are a trigger to eat more, and,
Mm-hmm. Me
and
too.
it's not for me. And I've facilitated a lot of classes where people, I've seen both, where it is a trigger for some, and for some it's not. But I can certainly say that without the artificial sweeteners, I don't get this like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, it'd be nice to have a piece of chocolate.
Because
You
that's
know?
what it does. When
Right.
you're, to me, the understanding of it is when your brain registers sweet and your body doesn't receive those sweet calories, it sends you looking for them later.
And so, you know, mentally, I'm like, well, I'll just go get my tea. Right at that 3 o'clock time, I'm not eating the sweet.
Right.
And I allow myself at a time. That's a whole nother conversation because I think eating a chocolate bar at 11 o'clock at night and then going to bed, I actually think I'd sleep through that whole thing of wanting more. But that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, so good. Well, I saw that we had anywhere from 0 to 8 viewers with this. This video is going to go onto YouTube. It'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
She says Carrie and she says Wendy will be back. For whatever reason, we're not really sure how people can leave comments. I tried to do it from my phone from a different YouTube account, and it wanted me to create a YouTube account, but I have a YouTube account, so and I was using a different one. So not how that works. So maybe we'll ask people to send us questions because we'd certainly like to interact with the viewers at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Sure.
and we'll be back. This is fun for us. I love chatting with Carrie,
Yeah,
and
we get to hang.
yeah, right. And she sees the world through eyes that I sometimes haven't been exposed to, and that for me is really what I enjoy about our relationship because it's always an educational, thought-provoking opportunity for me to extend myself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really the message of this whole first video we've done is, right? Kind of. I didn't think about it until now, but so that's what I have to say for now. Carrie, do you want to say anything, add anything? Did I miss anything? What do we want to wrap up with?
Well, I gotta say, I really enjoyed this. You know, yeah, definitely welcome to hear what other people might want to hear as topics. And yeah, we do. We have very different perspectives on a lot of things. We have very different weight loss surgery lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's good because the reach is a little bit broader. So, yeah.
We're friends.
Yeah.
It's okay to be different. She says.
I thought you had a raw lobster in your oven.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to hit the stop broadcast button. And to all of our first to be with us, awesome, high five.
Yeah,
and
thanks for coming.
Maybe there'll be comments that we'll be able to read on the video after, and we will get back to you if there is. So, Carrie, Onward until the next time.
Adios, folks.
Bye.
Bye.